Welcome to Breaking Indecision. Decisions can be hard, especially in a post-information world. Whether it's your phone, computer, internet, or frankly, just being bombarded by social media, information is literally everywhere. So how is it that we make good decisions? How is it that we know what decision we're making is the right one? Over the next coming weeks, we're going to explore exactly that with experts, knowledgeable professors, and the leaders in making or breaking indecision.
Sometimes in life you say, how am I here right now with these amazing people? And I'm just totally honored to be here with you all.
That right there is me, your host, Kinsley Trigger Jordan, loving the conversation, surrounded by experts.
What we're looking at is this concept of the post-information age, where we're going really, and how we can help our decision makers.
Meet Yves Gagnon, always an incredible perspective and quick with a laugh.
Do you think that we are ready as an organization to decentralize this decision making? And do you think that the chiefs are ready for that?
Our newest host, Arnaud Den.
His army was this culture of, okay, as far as you can go, please go, I will push you.
And welcome with me our very special guest, General Groire de Saint-Quentin. Friends, welcome back and get ready for decentralized decisions in the post-information age.
So what is your experience in terms of decision making, and do you believe that the quantity of information changes a decision making outlook and decision making in your career?
Yes, it clearly changes the decision making. My experience, I had different positions in the operational chain of command during my career, and especially my last 10 years, I was fully involved in operational matters. As a colonel in the J5 of the Joint Staff, then commanding the French forces in Senegal, and be the first commander of Serval operation in 2013. After this operation, I've been assigned to the French SOCOM as a commander. And my last position during 4 years was to be chief of joint operation in the Joint Staff. So I have a pretty good view on the decision-making process, and I consider that in the future, this decision-making process will be strongly supported by the artificial intelligence. We are at a moment where the commander has too much information to cope with, and we are also at a moment where we have gathered more and more officers in our staff, but we are now huge staff. But the more you added human resources, the slower is the decision-making process. The more we added human resources in our staff, we are now huge staff, but it is considerably slowing down the decision-making process. So we must think about a support of computer to the decision makers in order to make it easier for them and faster. The solution is not at all to add more human resources, because to manage this huge staff is an objective in itself. So an objective of operational staff is not to to take care of its functioning, but to take care of the final decision and to have appropriate decision in regard of the situation.
Mon Général, if I may, well, thank you. And I find it fascinating as well, because when we talk about this this topic. And of course, we will be speaking to experts from everywhere. So we have already spoken to psychologists who see decision only as a decision, as a yes or no situation, as a should I act, should I not act. We will also speak to medical staff, doctors, who will make decisions about life and death, but not in the same way that we would see a decision in life and death. And because there's so many different people looking at decision making for different reasons, could I ask you to cast your mind back even further back than before J5? So, for example, decisions that you were called upon to make as a captain or as a lieutenant, because I guess what some people will tell us is that at the very high level you're talking about, of course, there is a wide range of information available to the commander, and reducing that amount of information is bound to be, it seems to be the way we're looking. I do wonder how you felt when you were in situations where there simply was no information available and you still had to make some decisions. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about this.
Tell you how I see the impact of this of the technology at this level, at the captain level.
More the impact of information. So in the very high level, in the joint staffs and in CPCO and in SOCOM, you had lots and lots of information available, and the challenge, I guess, was to be able to see through all that information and still be able to make good decisions. But I wonder sometimes if we simply, instead of making the information available to you in a better way, what if we simply removed it? Because as a captain on the ground in, say, Africa, I presume in your younger days, and I need to be very careful here, but I suspect in your younger days, there was a lot less information for you to cope with. And so for me, I'd be interested in widening the spectrum of information, not just for very, very high level decisions, but also more junior decisions on the ground in operations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. First, I don't think that we can compare a captain that I was 30 years ago or 35 years ago and a captain now, because these captains are more digital natives and they have access to many information on their smartphone, not only through operational network, but also through social media or by many other assets, and they have also at their level a decision-making process to do. But this decision-making process seems to be simple, that with less information to deal with, but they need the appropriate information. The level of complication or the intensity of the decision is probably higher than I was myself as a captain commanding a company in the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. It's probably they had the difficulty to deal with a complex environment. And what we call complexity, not only in the military field, but also in every other field, it's today we have great difficulty to make a decision because there is so many drivers, parameters intricated that we must have a clear view, and we must clear the vision, clear the fog of war, clear the parameter of decision. And I think the captain today must think, appropriately and fast enough. And he will need the support of the technology. And it is the interest of the higher level to decentralize decision at this level. because if you decentralize, you react in the good loop of time. Yes, and you will react timely. If you have to deal with all this information and ask for validation for at a higher level, you will probably be out of this tempo. And this, what we call the informational superiority or supremacy, is exactly that. I am able to cope with information faster than my enemy. It's at every level, tactical, operational, and strategic.
And so, do you think that we are ready as an organization to decentralize this decision making? And do you think that the chief are ready for that, or do we need to transform to acculturate people for that?
I see it as a matter of almost death and life, because if we are not able to do so, we will overfeed the higher level of decision, and they will decide so slowly, too much slowly, and there will be very bad consequences of this kind of system. Today, presently, we have already some information network and CIS that make the higher level of decision able to decide of everything. But if you are doing this kind of micromanagement, if you are doing the job of your subordinate, you are not doing your own job. It's a question of education. It's not a question of CIS. It's not a question of connectivity of artificial intelligence. It's a level of education of your young leaders and also the eldest one. You have to educate your officers in this domain, because if they want to control everything, they will at the end of the day control nothing.
Yeah.
And you raise an interesting question. It's a challenge for our leaders. It's a real challenge. I've seen it as a commander. I ask for decentralization. I ask for delegation. At the tactical level, and I've clearly seen that it was not easy for the intermediate level of command between me at the strategical command and the tactical command, because the intermediate level want to not to take, but to keep a kind of margin of maneuver. They want to have their own, and you can understand that. But they must also understand, if they are not able to decentralize fast enough, they will be beaten.
As you said that, one of the things that came to mind as you were talking about the level of education, that because there are so many interconnected pieces of information coming from multiple different sources, multiple different levels of truth, but also distruth, and trying to sort through what's fact, what's not fact. How do you see being able to actually stay up with information when there is so much, so fast, so frequently, and then try to make a decision from that? Because it almost feels like you always have to have this in your hand or else you're left behind.
Yeah.
But that's not realistic.
Yeah, but excellent question. I cannot imagine that facing so much information, you can cope with this wall of data without the support of automation.
Yeah.
the point is, in the process of decision making, what do you automate and what must not automate? You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's really the only point of interrogation for me today. For me, it's absolutely sure that we'll have to support our each level of command with the artificial intelligence, with automation.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, talk about yourself as a captain 30 years ago and the captains of today. And the way I've been looking at this question is looking at information. And information has changed. And I've wondered what that change with the information would mean to me. What I hadn't considered is what you said. You're absolutely right. Let's use captains as an example. The captains have changed. So we can't look at this question from our own bias of being who we are today and what we were back then. But today's society doesn't have that same relationship with the information. And perhaps it means that we will need to study the people as opposed to the information. But what is next? And I think one of the discussions, if you will, on the post-information age, is there not a possibility that in the future we may wish to come back to a time of less information rather than more information? And I'd be interested in your thoughts.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think today there is info obesity. We are fed up with information. And it's a kind of connectic apocalypse, and we have to go to a time where we'll have less information. I imagine, the post-information era as a moment where you will have stabilized, the technology and balance between information and our ability to tackle this information, and to a certain extent to make it easy for us.
Thanks for joining us with our special guest, the General Gregoire de Saint-Quentin. And make sure you follow along and subscribe so you can catch part 2 of this same discussion. If you'd like to join us for future episodes of Breaking Indecision, make sure you follow along on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, and anywhere podcasts are available. Join us next week as we bring more experts, professors, and industry leaders to help us decide what information we need, how to sort through it, how to prioritize it, so that we can make the best decisions possible. Thanks for joining us again, and follow along with the Trilateral Strategic Steering Group on LinkedIn. See you next week.